This is the Discovery Optics HD, a 2 to 12 power first focal plane MPVO. That's right, MPVO, not LPVO. What's the difference? Let's find out. Let's skip the boring unboxing videos and just take a look at what you get inside the box. This is a Discovery Optics HD. It is a 2 to 12 power MPVO with a 24mm objective lens and a 30mm tube. And the reason I say MPVO is because, unlike an LPVO, this has a minimum magnification of 2 instead of 1. But it has some features that you won't find in most LPVOs, chiefly its parallax focus. And this parallax focus goes all the way down to 5 meters, or 5 yards, I believe it's meters on this, all the way out to infinity. And sharing that turret is our illumination knob, which indexes and offers 6 levels of illumination with an off in between each of the intensities, which is nice. It's powered by a 2032 coin battery, and let's take a look at these turrets here. And these are locking. You pull up to unlock. Wow, that is super loud and tactile positive with no slop in between each of these crisp clicks. And each of the clicks is 1/10 of a mil. Let's check out our windage. Also, equally as loud, equally as tactile positive, with crisp clicks. And these are user resettable with a coin or the flat tool that came with it. And let's check out our magnification ring. Turns nicely smooth with just the right amount of resistance. There's a little bit of a nub. I wouldn't quite call it a fin. I wish it was actually a little bit higher if they included a throw lever, but unfortunately not. But turns well enough. Again, this is not intended to function like an LPVO, but kind of give you that magnification in the medium to long ranges, along with your parallax focus for a parallax-free point of aim. And our diopter turns smoothly. And this also gives you some of the benefits of an LPVO in its medium magnification, as well as a very compact size. It is physically, it looks very much like an LPVO. It is a little bit over 8 inches long, not including the 1.75 or 2 inch sunshade at the very end, and relatively lightweight at just over 16 ounces, so just a hair over a pound. So this is a very tactical kind of optic that you could put onto a small pistol-sized rifle carbine and maneuver very quickly, even in tight mount-like quarters. Let's bring it outdoors and test it out next. The HD doesn't come with mounts, so I'm going to use Discovery Optics DGCM cantilever mounts. These are precision mounts made with 6061 aluminum, and they come pre-lapped and have recoil lugs. Before we get started with the test, I'd just like to take a quick break here to talk about this episode's sponsor, Aura. For the cost of just a VPN, I'm getting a whole suite of security services, including $1 million in identity theft insurance, and they're even removing me from those damn data broker listings. Use my link, aura.com/moondog, and you can try them for 14 days, free. And if you use that link, you're helping to support this channel. You know, identity fraud is a real thing, and with AI, it's all too easy to spoof your identity. That's why you should try out Aura. All right, let's get back to the tests. We are looking through the Discovery Optics HD at its lowest power of 2 to give our best overall view through the glass, and I'm just scanning around like I would with an LPVO, but since this is a 2-power MPVO, your field of view is much narrower, more of a tunnel vision kind of effect. Now, you can't really use it with both eyes open like an LPVO because of the magnification, perhaps if the center part of the reticle was brightly illuminated like an ACOG, but as we'll find out in a bit, that's not the case. Now, it is a windy, overcast day, so the lack of color in the sky is what I'm seeing in the real world. Note the blemish you're seeing in the view there is not the fault of the glass, it's actually a tiny little bug that landed on the lens that I didn't notice at the time. We're looking at Mount Davidson, which is approximately 1,400 yards away, and the view is very color accurate and clear, though there is softening around the outer edges, so it's not tack sharp from center to the outer edge. And as we increase magnification, we are just going to magnify all the faults in the glass, and we're going to stop at 6 power halfway. The view is actually very good and color accurate. I don't see any chromatic aberration, and typically I would see that as a purple fringe along the tree line where it's silhouetted against the sky. Now, let's bring this up to 12 power. We're going to lose some light, contrast, and detail, but it still looks pretty good as long as you're right at the center of the eye box, because this eye box got really tight and unforgiving. That said, I can make out the trail marker sign there at the top of the hill, which is a 3-foot-ish sign on top of a pole, which is a good proxy for an IPSC target at this distance, and a hiker in a red jacket about 2 mils to the left of that sign. Let's take a look at the illumination. I'm going to aim the scope at the shaded part of a tree nearby and set the illumination to its maximum of 6. And that's not very bright. I'm going to put my hand in front of the bell, and that is what is illuminated. That's the center part of the reticle there. It's twilight or indoor bright, but not useful in broad daylight. Now let's bring this down to 2 power, where you really need a bright illumination to use a first focal plane reticle tactically. And no, it's not bright enough. We are looking through the Discovery Optics HD at its lowest power of 2 at our reference targets downrange at 100 yards. And we're just looking at the scope for the best overall image. And this is a good opportunity to check our range of adjustments, starting with our elevation. And let's turn these up and see how far it goes. And that is the very top. And let's turn these down the other direction on our elevation. Quite a bit more, I think. Okay, maybe not. It's about the same. Alright, that was the bottom. Let's turn these over to its 0 on our turrets. Now let's check out our windage. That is the rightmost extent of its range of adjustments. And let's turn these all the way to the other side. Alright, that is the leftmost extent of its range of adjustments. Let's return our turrets back to the factory 0. Alright, now let's bring up our magnification all the way to its maximum of 12 power on our scope. And that is what the scope looks like at 12 power. The overall image is rather muddy looking and not particularly sharp. We don't see a lot of detail on our reference targets at this distance. Alright, we are lined up with the bottom left corner of that grid target, and let's see if these track. I'm going to dial in about 7 MOA, and that brings us into our top left corner of the target, and I'm going to dial in 7 MOA into our windage, and that should put us pretty much on to the right top corner, and I'm going to dial back our elevation back to 0, and that puts us into the next corner target, and I'm just going to dial our windage back to 0, and that puts us back to where we started. Alright, we're going to conduct the nipple twister test. We're going to see if this returns back to its starting point after I turn the heck out of these turrets. I'm going to start with elevation here and see if turn this for like 15 seconds. And then turn our windage like crazy and see how that goes. Alright, let's dial this back to its factory 0 on the turret and then dial this back. Oh, wrong way. All right. I've moved up the scope to 50 yards so we can take a look at those reference targets a little bit more clearly. And we're looking through the scope at its lowest power of 2 again. And I'm going to bring up our magnification all the way to its maximum of 12. And let's take a look at those reference targets. I can clearly make out bullet hits on the reactive sticker target on the bottom left, as well as 2 additional 22 caliber holes below that reactive sticker target. And in the resolution chart on the bottom right, I can make out both horizontal and vertical lines down to element 5 in group -1, which is remarkably good for what is a rather milky looking image. I gave it a practical test to see how well it would shoot from 20 yards, CQB distances, and despite its more limited field of view, it wasn't bad. I shot through 50 rounds of ammo and got some good practice time, and overall I'm pleased with its performance, so I'm looking forward to trying this out at a match. Well, thanks for sticking around, and if you enjoyed this video, take a moment and hit that like button and leave a comment. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button and notification bell buttons, because that's free. You don't get charged a subscription fee to become a subscriber. So thanks for doing that, and I'd also like to thank Discovery Optics for sending out the HD 2-12 MPVO for me to test out. MPVO stands for medium power variable optic, unlike LPVOs, which are low power variable optics, because this starts at 2 power and goes all the way up to 12, which I don't know if there's any LPVOs out there that go up that high. Probably, maybe there is. I don't know. Let me know if you know. But yeah, this is optimized for longer distances, like beyond 200 yards. It has a first focal plane reticle, and more importantly, it has a parallax focus. This not only gives you a sharper focus, but also a more precise point of aim at distances. And this has really excellent precision turrets on here. So yeah, this is really optimized for longer range shooting while still retaining an LPVO's overall size, dimensions, and weight. And this is a very affordable optic. Now, to get all this package at this price tier, there are some compromises. This has a fairly tight eye box, but to be fair, LPVOs that are high power, like 10 power, also have tight eye boxes. But yeah, a 12 power optic is in this size is going to have a fairly unforgiving eye box. Also, it's not tack sharp from center of the outer edge. There's noticeable softening around and distortion around the outer edges. Is not the flattest image that I've seen on here. And it doesn't have a truly daylight bright reticle. It's a pretty twilight bright, and that's kind of the biggest disappointment I have. Is I wish this reticle could go up brighter than it is. But otherwise, it is a great optic and is a good compromise if you're looking for something that's lightweight, especially if you're hunting. So if you're interested in picking up one of these scopes, I've included affiliate product links as well as more information in my full written review at moondogindustries.com. You'll find a link to that article in this video's description. So check that out. And if you enjoyed this video, again, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and notification bell buttons. God bless. Moondog out. Hey, I'd like to know what you thought of this video. Leave me a comment or chat with me on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, MeWe, Instagram, or Locals. And if you want to see all of my videos, go to moondogindustries.com.